Hello everyone, welcome to this session on Python programming. In today's class, we are going to learn one of the most important concepts in programming, file handling in Python. Before starting with coding, let us understand why we need files, okay? So whenever we write a Python program, the data that our program uses is usually stored temporarily in the computer's memory, which we call RAM. For example, suppose we create a simple Python program where we store a student's name. For example, name is equal to Alice, print name. When we run this program, the value Alice is stored in memory. But once we close the program, that data disappears. This happens because RAM is temporary storage. So the question is, how can we store information permanently even after our program stops running? The answer is files. Files allows program to save information permanently on storage devices like hard disk, SSDs, cloud storage. Unlike RAM, files are not cleared when the program ends. A simple way to understand this is RAM is like a whiteboard. You can quickly write information on a whiteboard while walking, but then when you erase it, the information is gone. A file is like a notebook or a document folder. You can write information, close it, keep it safely, and open it again later. In real world applications, files are used everywhere. For example, websites store user information, applications store configuration settings, banking systems stores transaction records, software stores error logs, students databases store academic records. Okay, so file handling is very important skill for every programmer. Okay, so let's understand the difference between temporary and permanent storage. When a program runs, data is loaded into RAM. The processor works with that data. When the program closes, RAM is cleared. Okay, but if we save data into a file, data is written to storage. The file remains available. We can access it whenever needed. For example, imagine creating a student management system without files. At student details, close program, all information is lost. But with files, add student details, save them in a file, close program, open again later, retrieve the same information. This is why file handling is required. Okay, so what is a file? Now let's define a file. A file is a named collection of data stored on permanent storage. A file has a name, an extension, data inside it. Okay, so types of files. So in programming, files are mainly divided into two categories. Number one, text files. Text files contain human readable characters. Okay, like for example .txt, .csv, .py. If we open these files, we can directly read the contents. Okay, so a human can easily understand this information. Text files store data as characters using an encoding system. The most common encoding is UTF-8. Encoding decides how characters are converted into computer readable form. Okay, so number two, binary files. The second type is binary files. Binary files store data in the form of bytes. For example, images, videos, audio files, executable programs, serialized object. Okay, for example, photo.jpg, song.mp3. If we open a binary file using a normal text editor, we cannot understand the content because it is not stored as readable characters. The computer understands binary data as 0 and 1. Okay, so real world example. So let's compare text and binary files. Suppose we store a photograph. A text file would store information like pixel 1 is equal to red, pixel 2 is equal to blue, pixel 3 is equal to green. But a binary file stores the actual bytes representing the image. This is why images and videos use binary format. Okay, so now file handling in Python. Okay, so Python provides built-in features to work with files. Using Python, we can create files, open files, read files, okay, read data, write data, modify data, close files. Okay, so this open, okay, the open functions allows our program to communicate with the file. Okay, just wait. And reading and writing, okay, after opening a file we can perform operations like reading information from a file, writing new information into a file, adding additional information. Just wait. Okay, reading and writing we have done. So closing a file. After completing our work, we should close the file. So we use file dot close parenthesis. Closing a file is important because it releases system resources. It saves changes properly. It prevents file corruption. It allows other programs to access the file. A simple real world example, opening a file is like taking a document from a cabinet. Working on the document is like reading or editing it. Closing the file is like putting the document back safely. I hope this much is clear for everyone. If you want to write these things in your notebook, you guys can write. Now let's discuss the different file opening modes. When we open a file, we specify a mode. Python provides different modes depending on our requirement. The main modes are R, W, A, X. Let's understand each one. The first mode is R. It means read mode. This mode allows us to read data from an existing file. Okay, so important points. The file must already exist. We cannot write data using this mode. If the file does not exist, Python will show an error. Okay. And when we open it in read mode, we can access this content. The second mode is W. So it means write mode. This mode is used to write data into a file. So important points, if the file does not exist, Python creates a new file. If the file already exists, Python removes the old content and writes new content. And also remember, write mode overwrites existing data. Okay, so the third mode is A. It means append mode. Append is used when we want to add new information without deleting existing content. A real life example, like think about writing a diary. You do not erase previous pages, you simply add new entries at the end. Append mode works on the same way. Okay. Okay, so the fourth mode is X. It means create mode. This mode creates a new file. Important point, if the file already exists, Python gives an error. This mode is useful when we want to make sure that we do not accidentally overwrite an existing file. So if you want to write these things in your notebook, you guys can do now. Now let's learn how to read data from files. Python provides three common methods. Number one, read. Number two, read line. Number three, read lines. Let's understand them one by one. So number one, read method. The read method reads the complete file content. For example, here you can see the entire file is returned as a single string. Okay. Okay, so second read line method. Okay, this method is useful. Only the first line is read in this. And this method is useful when dealing with very large files because we do not need to load everything into memory. Number 3, read lines method. So it reads all lines and returns them as a list. Now that we have learned how to read data from files, let's move to the next important operation, writing data into files. Writing means storing new information inside a file. In Python, we use the write method mode or the write method to add data. Like you can see here, file.write hello Python. The data that we want to store must be provided as a string, okay? So here let's understand this step by step, okay? So first we open the file in write mode. If the file does not exist, Python creates it automatically. Next, file.write hello Python. This writes the text into a file. Finally, file.close, we close the file. After running this program, our file contains hello Python. Okay, there is an important point we must remember. The W mode will overwrite existing content. For example, assume our file contains Python programming file handling. Okay, so in place of hello Python, just imagine there is new content. So after execution, the file becomes new content. The old information is removed. So whenever we use write method, we should be careful. So let me give you a real life example. Imagine writing on a piece of paper. If you take a new blank page, you write new information. But if you erase an old page and write again, the previous information is lost. The W mode works similarly. Okay, if you want to write this in your notebook, you guys can do. Now let's learn about adding data without deleting existing information. This operation is called appending. Appending means adding new content at the end of an existing file. For this, we use a append more. So here is the example you guys can see here. File is equal to open data text comma a file dot write new line added file dot close. So this will be the output after execution. The previous content remains unchanged, only new data is added at the end. Okay, so let's move forward. So after completing file operations, we should always close the file. Why is closing important? There are several reasons, but number one, releases resources. When a file is opened, the operating system allocates resources. Closing returns these resources. Number two, It saves data properly. Sometimes data is temporarily stored in memory buffers. Closing ensures that all changes are written properly. Number 3 prevents file logging. Some files cannot be accessed by other programs while they are open. Closing removes this restriction. So here we have the example. So the current so you can see real world, just wait. Okay, thinking about real world analogy, thinking about borrowing a library book. Okay, you take the book, read or write notes, return it. So keeping it the book forever prevents other from using it. Similarly, keeping files open unnecessarily can create problems. So if you want to write this in your notebook, you can write. Okay, now we will learn a better and safer way to handle files. Python provides something called a context manager. So using the with statement, okay, the with statement automatically closes the file when the block ends. Safer and preferred. So the problem, just wait. Okay, the better approach is this. Okay, here Python automatically closes the file. We do not need to write file dot close. So benefits of with statement: number one, automatic closing. Python closes the file automatically after completing the block. Number two, safer code. Even if an exception occurs, the file is properly closed. Number three, cleaner code. The program becomes shorter and easier to understand. Okay, now we'll be doing some questions. Now we have completed the concepts of file handling. So in this final section, we will apply everything we have learned by creating a small practical project. So we will create a student record management system using Python files. So number one, create a text file. Number two, store students in details. Number three, read the file contents. Number four, add the new student information. And number five, count the number of students. This practical example will help us understand how file handling is used in real applications. So number one, creating a file. Write a Python script that creates students.txt and writes three student records: name, role, and branch. Okay. So each student record will contain name, roll number, and branch. Okay. So you have to do it by yourself. Take time and do it by your own. So in the second question, reading file contents. Now we want to display the student information on the screen. For this, we use read mode. So the read function reads the complete file. The data is stored in the variable. So you have to do this question by your own. And number three question, you have to add new student details. Okay, now suppose a new student joins the class. We don't want to delete the existing records, so we use append mode. Okay, so by this you have to do this question. And number four, count lines. So here you have, now we want to find how many students are stored in our file. For this we read all files. So this question also you have to do by your own. Okay,